Hey.
Hey, girl. How are you?
I just needed to get I'm good. Just waking up. I'm not sure how long I'll be able to stay because it's Father's Day and everybody's still sleeping, but
Yes,
yeah.
I think that we have, it's just the three of us today, and that's probably because it's Father's Day.
Okay.
So let's get on to just giving a quick update how you two are doing. I want to hear about what you said no to this week and what you are committing to saying no to next week. Amanda, do you want to tell?
I'm just trying to think what I've said no to. I am getting better at saying no.
Good.
It's just been a busy week that I haven't been able to say a lot of no's. We've had a full Airbnb. I've had to take teens to dentist or football. They are not no's. They have to be done. So it's just, I feel shattered this week. And I just caught what you were saying earlier on your, I don't know what they call, blog post, I don't know, about just finding time and sleep and don't exercise too late. And I have done all my exercises really late this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm talking after 8 p.m. In fact, Friday was gone 9. And then, of course, by the time I've crawled, not thrown, into the bath with my Epsom salts, I'm just like, it's too late.
You slept well then?
I slept well, Friday, but I've been overtired, and I think that's not been good for sleep. I'm too tired then to sleep.
So can you find a way to fit your workout earlier in the day by saying something?
I'm hoping that this week I'll, sometimes it's my own self-discipline of when I do things. I procrastinate and I swap things over because I don't want to do them, or they've ended up in the wrong place in the day. So I've now got a diary that I'm writing.
Good.
Times that suit me best, because I heard you saying, you've got this ring, and I can't remember what it's called, but it tells you when your sleep patterns are better. So I don't want to go down.
Sleep.
Yeah. So I've got this diary, and I'm going to keep a diary of when I sleep better, and then look back at the day before and see if that's had any effect on how I sleep better. Okay. So I'm going to keep that this week.
Mm-hmm. So you listened to the lecture that I prepared on sleep that I put up on Facebook. It was more extensive than the one that I gave last week.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Rahima, tell me.
I'm just trying to think. I definitely said no. Well, this might not sound good, but it actually was really good. My parents have invited us to go to a vacation with them. And often I'll try to do anything possible to try to make that happen. Because in my world, my parents have been sort of king and queen. But over the past few months, I've really realized they're not. I'm the queen now. Which feels like a really big deal, actually. But it just was. It was getting in the way. Wasn't a thing that was going to work out for me in my life and our family, my family's life. And so I just said I didn't think it was going to work out, and that felt like a really big, just a really big deal. I mean, they were hoping for a big family reunion vacation, and it just wasn't in the cards for us. And it just felt like really empowering, actually, to just say no.
Yeah.
So that's a big one, but I'm sure there are little ones that I've been trying to be more unapologetic, about myself, which feels like a no in some way, like a no to just people pleasing and trying to fit everyone's wishes, you know. So that feels like a no, even though it's more of a yes to me. It feels like a no to
A no to you, a no to everyone else is always a yes to you.
Yes, right. That's right. Yeah. So that's what I'm feeling that. I mean, I don't think I'm not 100%, but I'm feeling a lot more like this sounds so strange, but like a person, you know, like an individual person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that today.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like no isn't what I expected it to be. You know, it's like actually it feels good inside.
It does.
You know, coming from a golden place. It's not coming from like a mean black armored place that I thought it would come from.
Excellent. Excellent. That sounds great. Well, let's see. I said no this week too. I said no to many social invitations. I didn't really want to say no, but I had too much work to do. And I knew that going out and having fun, you know, I need to say yes to that at some point. But right now I have to really focus on my work. The big things that are happening for me right now are, of course, Perwink, and just really trying to make this the best that it can be. And then also I'm preparing a property that's my adjacent property. I live in a side-by-side duplex for a rental. And I actually had to say no to the contractor who was not giving me an end date. So you see, I'm all covered with paint right now. Ooh. I had to say no to the contractor and yes to myself to painting. So that one wasn't exactly a great feeling, but I did feel, you know, I guess what I felt was really good in that I think if I had tried to do this 5 years ago, I would have been apologizing to him, right? Because he never gave me an end date. He kind of flaked out on the job. He left the place a mess and he wasn't committing to when he was going to finish. And I think in the past I would have been like, oh, I'm sorry, this doesn't, you know, I need to hire someone else, or I'm sorry. I didn't apologize and I didn't feel apologetic at all. And I was clearly not happy with him. And I was absolutely fine to stand in that power and express that I was discontent with his, you know, with his job, and tell him that, you know, it's not acceptable and I'm going to hire somebody else. And I felt really good and very clear about being able to do that and not be afraid in any way. So that felt good.
That's amazing. I hope to get there one day.
Yeah. And, you know, I was going to avoid him too. I was like, not going to go over there because I was working there and I saw that he was coming over and I was like, oh, maybe I should leave. And I was like, no, this is my house. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. If someone's going to be uncomfortable, it's him, not me.
Yes, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so we have so many, we hired somebody to do, actually I'm in it, which they've totally flaked out on last year. Took our money and ran. And it just, we still haven't had, you know, we're still kind of in like this trauma, you know, of like, what are we going to do now? Like, we don't, you know, so good for you for being strong about that. That's hard.
Yeah, I got to make this happen. So I'm over there. So in between working on Perwink, I've been painting and cleaning over there, but it's going to work out. I know that I do trust that there is a plan that I'm not aware of. I'm not in control of everything. Yeah. All right. So great. So what, we didn't touch on what you're going to commit to saying no to though this week.
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, what am I going to say no to? I don't know. I'm finding this really hard. I think because I'm tired. I don't want to say, yes, go on, I'll do that. Yes. Because I think I've made a rod for my own back with my family, first of all. I would rather do everything myself than wait for other people to do it. It drives me bananas. Friends, thankfully have backed off a bit. I think they realised that I've got a business now to get off the ground. I don't know where this business is going to go. You know, I draw, I make pots, I illustrate, I doodle, I print make. We have Airbnb, I garden. I have no idea about flowers. When they arrive in the garden, I'm like, God, that's amazing. Something's worked. So I think they're allowing me the space, and I have said no already to a couple of girl dates this week. And then I'm thinking, oh, but that would be good for me. And then I think,
those are the ones that we want to say yes to.
Yeah, it probably, yeah, I don't know. Okay. I feel ground down. I don't know.
I'm going to come back to you at the end and ask you again. So you have this whole time to think, okay, both of you.
All right.
I personally am going to say no to, let me think about that too. Okay. So today we're talking about mindset. We're talking about menopause and mindset. I have a very extensive talk for you today, and we're going to start out with the big picture, and then we're going to narrow it down into actionable items about what we can do in this stage of life. So I want to start out with the animal kingdom. Who has menopause? Does anyone know? In the animal kingdom?
No.
Besides women?
Do dogs have menopause?
No. There's only one other animal that has menopause.
Horse.
Whole animal kingdom. Killer whales.
No way.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So women and killer whales are the only, well, there's a couple other narwhals also. There's a few different types of toothed whales that have menopause, but only like 3 or 4 different species of whale and humans, okay? So there's been a lot of study of this topic because it seems to fly in the face of evolutionary theories. Why would we outlive our reproductive life? Why would we outlive our reproductive stage? All other animals die when they can no longer reproduce, except for us and the whales, okay? So what they've come up with is this theory. It's called, well, the theory that's come out of it is called grandmother hypothesis, okay? So what they've learned about the whales by studying them is that the post-reproductive whale is actually extremely important to the herd and to the entire species, to the survival of the entire species. The reason that they think that the whales live or go into this menopause is so that there's less competition between the mother and the daughter in reproductive, suitability with the males in the herd, but also because it decreases the amount of offspring. Because if the grandmother was to keep reproducing, there would be a lot of offspring in the herd, and that would require a greater demand of food and resources for the herd, okay? So it cuts down on the supply, it cuts down on the reproductive competition. But more importantly, it seems that the grandmother whales are the ones who hold the knowledge. So they are extremely important to the entire herd when resources are scarce, because they have a memory that is important about where to find resources, where to find food, that the younger whales do not have. The other thing that's really interesting is that they've done studies about the male offspring. Okay, so if a male whale loses his mother, his chances of dying within the first year of losing that mother are 3 times greater if he's younger than 30. He's going to die sooner by 8 times if he's older than 30. And get this is the real thing that makes me have chills. He is 14 times more likely to die within the year of his mother's death if she is postmenopausal. So the whale's value increases to the herd as it grows older. It becomes more valuable for the survival of the entire species. And what else is also interesting, and we can kind of apply this, and they think that there's a lot of parallels between humans and whales in terms of value for the matriarchs, okay? And what they found too is that the more offspring that human mothers, grandmothers have, and the more inclusive fitness benefit that they get, and the longer they live. So if they have more grandchildren, even though the demands are higher on them to help, it actually keeps them alive longer, and it keeps the offspring alive longer. So there's this very important finding with the whales and the humans that points to the fact that as we age, we actually do indeed increase in value to our families, but also to contributing to, you know, the survival of our entire species. So obviously we have some important work to do, whether we have children or not, because as we get older, the wisdom that we have is valuable to everybody. Okay. I know that sometimes in perimenopause, it can feel lonely, like, you know, we're out and nobody else understands what we're experiencing. But in fact, there are 43 million women going through this right now, perimenopause. And that's a quarter of the human population is in perimenopause right now. In fact, 6,000 women daily in the US enter perimenopause. So we are a huge segment of the population, regardless of the fact that there is a lot of silence around this stage of womanhood. We're all in it. It's everywhere. Okay. So that's why I'm all about bringing it out into the open. Okay. So now let's drill down. So we went from the animal kingdom. Now let's talk about culture, because actually Debbie had a really good question about are there cultures that honor men or who do perimenopause well? So I wanted to read to you this quote that's beautiful. It's from the Chinese book entitled The Yellow Emperor's Classic from 2600 BC. And it talks about menopause. And just kind of like put yourself in a space where you can imagine this, because it's a very poetic way of saying it. At 7 times 7, a woman's heavenly dew wanes. The pulse of her conception channel decreases. The chi that dwelt in the baby's palace moves upward into her heart, and her wisdom is deepened. So we have 7 times 7.
Did you post that somewhere? I've read that recently.
I did post it on Instagram.
Yeah, okay.
So 7 times 7, that's 49. That's where I am right now. The heavenly dew is the menstrual blood. It wanes. The pulse of her conception channel decreases. The chi that dwelt in the baby's place, the uterus, moves upward into her heart, and her wisdom is deepened. Okay? So that's how the Chinese perceive this stage of womanhood. And studies have found that actually Chinese women have very few perimenopause symptoms. Japanese, on the other hand, says the term koneki is the term for menopause, and it means renewal years or energy. Mayan Indian women, studies have been done, and it shows that, and they've been interviewed, and they actually look forward to menopause, and they're eager to enter menopause because in that culture, their social status is elevated, and they're looked to as wise women and spiritual leaders. They also do not have significant perimenopausal symptoms.
Sorry, which group was that? I missed the...
Mayan Indians.
Okay.
Central America. And then we have the Greek root of our word menopause, which basically means monthly stop. Okay. So we can see how there's a different sense of feeling in the semantics that different languages use to describe this period of womanhood. There has been studies that I find very interesting about how different cultures perceive menopause and what the outcomes for symptoms are in those cultures for the women that live in those cultures. And what they have found that, this is a quote, that if menopause symptoms were due solely to hormonal changes, that menopause would be more homogeneous. Okay. So what they are postulating is that the way that the culture perceives menopause is internalized by women, and our own attitudes about how we feel about aging and our place in society as post-reproductive women has a tremendous effect on how we experience this stage of womanhood. They did some studies. Many women in the US, UK, and Canada had far, far, far more symptoms than those women in Sweden and in Italy also. And they also think that that could be due to not just the cultural ideas around aging and womanhood, but lifestyle and diet as well. Okay, so menopause is, and perimenopause is, a crossroads. We are at a crossroads of our reproductive years. We've experienced another crossroads that is kind of a mirror of this one, and that was menstruation. The first day that we have our period in our life is called menarche. Menopause also is just a single day. It's the 1-year anniversary to our last period. So they're kind of like bookends of our reproductive life. And they have a lot in common, actually, because our hormones are going through a lot of shifts. There's an instability, a feeling of instability in both adolescence and perimenopause. A lot of issues come to light during this time that are highlighted by our hormones, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But also, it's a process of individuation, and you had mentioned something about that, Rahima, about becoming an individual. And we do that as adolescents. When we step into our reproductive years, we become an individual away from childhood. We gain our own identity. We look out into the world to find our place. We connect with people. Our relationships become paramount. This something similar, but a little bit different. Instead of this outward looking and outward searching that we have in adolescence, when we come to perimenopause, we start to look more inwardly. And it's a different process of individuation. Instead of finding our place in how we care for others, we look inside to see what needs to be healed, what needs to be dealt with, and how we can find space for ourselves. Okay. But there's a return to honesty that is both parallel in perimenopause and in adolescence. If you look at the pre-adolescent, they have this way of being in the world that is unfiltered. They say what they mean, it just comes out. They have no ability or even desire to censor themselves. When we get to perimenopause, our hormonal profile shifts, and the the profile that has kept us in this kind of keeping status quo, nurturing way of being starts to diminish, and the truth comes out again in unfiltered ways. And I have often felt in this perimenopausal period like a return to my pre-adolescence, actually, and a little that angst a little bit, but not deep anger, but just like, no, kind of a, like, I even shaved my head on one side. Like I had my hair when I was 12. When I was about 43, I went back to 12 years old. I was just like, no, I'm doing this again. Like I felt like I had to, or I wanted to just be a little rebellious in some way. I don't know, but I can identify with something about that pre-adolescent girl right now in, the honesty that I have with myself and others. Although I was not very self-aware back then, but I would say whatever I wanted to. I didn't care. And I feel like I'm there again. It's good. Okay. So because our estrogen is decreasing right now, our estrogen does a lot for us in body and mind. So let's talk a little bit about that. Our estrogen is what gives us our womanly characteristics, our roundness, our beauty, our softness, our nurturance, our empathy. We have those things on a soul level too, but it's increased and enhanced by our estrogen. Okay. So what happens when we get to this stage? The hormonal veil of estrogen is lifted, and the estrogen tended to keep us focused on other people's needs all the time, other people's wants, what we can do to fill and make sure everything is okay. How can we keep the status quo? All of that kind of lifts off, and we're not compelled to meet those needs in the same way. And it's challenging for those of us who are older mothers, I think, who are in perimenopause with young children, to still feel compelled to meet those needs in that same way. I think and especially during this pandemic, has been challenging, because at this point, we're starting to look more inward on how we take care of ourselves. So focusing on the outer world can be a challenge, and trying to meet those needs during this time is definitely, at odds with what's happening hormonally. So yeah, in our reproductive years, we'll go along with the program. Sometimes we'll even medicate ourselves to keep the status quo. The peacekeeping trend and the tend and befriend profile, hormonal profile that we have in our reproductive years starts to diminish. And also the importance of the external starts to diminish. So a lot of us have received our validation through other people, through the approval of other people, whether it's men or our partners or our parents or our friends, our bosses, our coworkers. Well, when estrogen diminishes, the importance of other people's opinions also seems to diminish. So, and this doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a really good thing, and it can be a freeing thing. But it tends that the boat becomes rocked during this time, okay? And this is a time period where a lot of divorces happen. People separate from friendships that were once long-standing because they're changing. Women are changing at this time, and those who are honoring their change and really listening to themselves are willing to kind of leave situations that no longer are in their best and highest good. So it's challenging because we're being really honest now, and maybe some people don't like that. We might be leaving marriages, we might be leaving friendships, we might be leaving jobs. We're reinventing ourselves, and it's not always easy on us or everyone else. In fact, there's often a lot of loss associated with this time. Loss of our former identity as a mother, as a reproductive woman, as someone who is desired in society, loss of value for how we look and for our reproductive value, which is apparently very important to society. You know, we confront all of these feelings of loss in this time, and it's important to acknowledge them and not just brush them under the carpet. Do you experience any feelings of loss in this time?
Yeah.
I got divorced, so that was a big loss. I also don't have a job through a company anymore. And initially that felt like a big loss as well. Raheem, are you experiencing any loss?
Well, I'm changing my job and everything, though I haven't really associated that with a hormonal change, but I mean, I think it's all related, right? So yeah, I mean, all the new is also a loss of something else. So yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Definitely. I mean, there's definitely a lot of change happening for sure.
And I think that the pandemic has really accelerated our feeling, or, you know, accelerated this and then intensified our feeling around it as well. Because it not only are we reinventing the second half of our life here because of this stage of womanhood, but many of us forced to figure out how to live in this new reality.
Well, and I think getting tuned in a little bit, quieting down and not having so much going on was really eye-opening. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like all that, not only were we, you know, hormonally induced to be more introspective, but we were also cocooned in with nothing else but ourselves, right? So I think it could be a really great time to harness this change, you know. Could be difficult too, very difficult. And I know that I had some rocky times, but I want to talk a little bit more about how perimenopause is a wake-up call. So I'm part of a lot of these groups in Instagram and in Facebook that are perimenopause groups, menopause groups. And some of them, a lot of them, I hear women all the time talking about their symptoms, and it's very interesting because there's tremendous support for women who need support with other women to talk about their symptoms, ask questions, and have this kind of forum to discuss. But when I read, sometimes I feel like I worry a little bit, because I feel like a lot of the women that are speaking up are talking about their bodies as though their bodies are their enemies. And I feel like I feel worried for that woman, because when we step into that kind of victim mentality of things happen to us, we're no longer empowered. Okay. Our body is not our enemy, and our hormones are not our enemy. Our hormones and what's going on with us emotionally, physically, those are all wake-up calls for us. Those are opportunities at this time. They might be difficult for us to understand at first, but I do believe it is our job to quiet ourselves and look inside and ask ourselves the important questions. What is out of balance that needs to be changed here? Rather than sweeping it under the carpet or making ourselves a victim. Okay. there was, our hormones accelerate or intensify things that are already there. Okay. They don't fabricate stuff. Okay. They intensify our feelings around unresolved issues. They are a combination of our existing brain chemistry and our life situations and how we deal with them. Okay. It's not that we're going crazy and our hormones are just haywire and we're out of control, and like, the way that the media and society has painted the picture of perimenopausal and menopausal women. There are reasons that we're feeling this way. It's not random. Okay. Christiane Northrup talks about how we have many wake-up calls and many opportunities to address unresolved issues. And she points to 4 different wake-up calls that we have in our life. The first one being PMS. She says we have 500 opportunities to address unresolved emotional issues during PMS. And that the more we leave those situations unresolved, the worse our PMS is. The next one that she talks about is postpartum depression. This is very interesting because I felt I had postpartum depression and I didn't know it, just like perimenopause. I didn't realize it until I had a second child, in fact, that how I was feeling was outside of the normal range when I was 37 with my first child. And there's also a lot of shame and guilt around that. Postpartum depression. I mean, that's really difficult to talk about. How do you tell people that you don't feel good, you're not happy when you have this beautiful newborn child, right? There's a lot of secrecy and shame around that period of womanhood. But, a lot of times women in that situation, it's of course the hormonal stuff that's going on, but there may be other underlying life circumstances there that are exacerbating her feelings or her depression. That's another opportunity to address underlying conditions and underlying situations. The other one that she talks about is seasonal affective disorder, and that we have an opportunity to address underlying emotional issues when we experience emotional changes that are caused by reduced sunlight and changes in weather during the seasons. And then she talks about perimenopause as the mother of the time to address unresolved issues. So what happens is when we don't resolve issues is we have like a debt accumulation that happens emotionally, and it actually stores in our body. You've heard me talk about chi and energy, and it's the same thing. I mean, I can apply this to anything. I can apply it to money. I can apply it to health. I can apply it to knots in your muscles. I can apply it to sinus infections, whatever. Whenever we have an accumulation of something that's unresolved, it stagnates in us, okay? It doesn't allow energy to flow through ourselves the way that it should and is meant to. And those stuck places attract illness. And the stuck places are not just, physical, like they're not just physical pinpoints, but they're related to our life experience, traumas that we've had, things that we don't want to let go of, unforgiveness, anything that we're unable to move, to process and move past. And how we know we're unable to process something is if it continually triggers us. I mean, that's the biggest signal. Some issue, it might be the same issue coming up all the time that triggers you. That's an opportunity for you to look into that issue and figure out, where am I feeling this in my body? How, why am I feeling this way? Really look into it instead of just sweeping it under the rug. Okay. I want to ask you a question now. What do you think trumps everything else in terms of keeping our health? It trumps lifestyle practices. It trumps our genetics. What is the most important factor in terms of health?
Contentment.
Was it stress?
Stress is the single most greatest factor that contributes to whether we have perimenopause symptoms.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm talking about what is the greatest contributor to our health that trumps lifestyle practices and genes.
I think contentment and sleep are my biggies.
Right, like attitude or something like that.
Yeah, it's attitude. It is our emotional states, our attitude, our perceptions. They mean more than anything we can do in terms of taking supplements and seeing body workers and doing exercise and eating organic. You can have all of those things in a great picture and all those boxes checked off. But if you're not okay inside, none of that matters. So studies find that women who have more anger and sadness have more perimenopause symptoms. I'm not saying that those feelings are wrong or bad. There are no wrong or bad feelings. But what I just said before, something that continually triggers you is unresolved, okay? Our thoughts and our emotions actually create biochemical reactions in our bodies. And there's been some studies that talk about how our fascia, which is the connective tissues between every single muscle fiber that we have, they're completely interconnected through our body too. Like our fascia here could be connected to our foot, like absolutely connected throughout our entire body. Well, that material, which is so heavily prevalent in our bodies, is believed to be the place where we actually store trauma. So releasing fascia release is supposed to help with kind of breaking up that stagnant energy of accumulated trauma and emotional stuckness, okay? And what we can do now with our feelings is to be with them and really experience them, writing about them, without dwelling in them, almost being able to observe ourselves, to feel it and to observe ourselves. Does that make sense? I did a lot of EMDR, and we'll talk about how this stage of life is often a time where women want to resolve the past. And I didn't know why I was compelled to do this, but in 2020, my whole New Year's resolution was, I am going to heal my deep childhood trauma. I had a lot of trauma in ages 1 through 7. And I'll just tell you, my mother was mentally ill and I have a stepmother now. So I had a tremendous instability. I am lucky to be alive. Let's just put it that way. And I know that some of those early patterns, they were still stuck here, I couldn't move past them. Like they would come up again and again in relationship. They would come up in how I felt about myself. And I decided, I was like, this is the year I'm doing this, 2020, of course, right? And I started going to EMDR. I highly recommend EMDR. EMDR is eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing. And it actually was developed and started to be used a lot with war, like men who had been exposed to war and had PTSD. And it's a reprocessing that you use both sides of your brain in this rhythmic way, and you reprocess your memories. But in doing that, you, instead of reliving them and re-experiencing them, you watch them from a higher place, and you see what happens, and then you associate what the belief is about yourself that came out of that experience. And then you reprocess the whole memory and make it right in your own mind, how it should be or should have been, or how you wanted it to be. And then you revisit the belief that you have about yourself again. And it literally changes. And the amazing thing about that therapy is that it happens immediately. Like, it's not like you have to keep going back and working on the same issue. Like, you literally free yourself from the patterns. And so I spent COVID doing EMDR, and I had more progress there than any other therapy. And I really credit a lot of my centeredness to the work I did there. It's deep digging, though. It's not always fun. But these kind of things that I'm talking about are the kind of things that women feel compelled to do during this time. So what is this time for us? We're kind of turning our mothering to ourselves and becoming the queens of ourselves. That's what menopause is. We're becoming the queens of us. It's a developmental stage. Our entire brain chemistry is rewiring in this process. Like, you know how we've had all kinds of other developmental stages in our lives. We walked, we talked, we became primed for learning. We went through adolescence. We moved out on our own and took responsibility for ourselves. This is another developmental stage. And it can be a very powerful catalyst for reinvention. And it's a crossroads where we explore the aspects of ourselves that have laid dormant during the caretaker years, the things that we've put off because we didn't have the time or energy to do. Now it's our time. So as we step away from caretaking as much as we can, I mean, we still have some of us small children, we direct our energy towards creativity. I see many women becoming artists. I see many women opening businesses. I see women writing books. I see women moving across the country and completely changing and reinventing themselves. A different sexual reawakening happening at this time. I see some women getting divorced and finding gay partners. I mean, or really coming into themselves in terms of their like sexual peak years. And again, there's an urge for healing the past in this time. So what are we to do? Like, what are the pillars of how we are to reinvent ourselves in this time? Well, one of the biggest ones is pleasure. So what is it that brings us pleasure? That's what we need to sink our teeth into. A lot of women begin tango dancing, myself included, or like your pottery and your garden. That's bringing you joy. The things that bring us joy, just for the sake of doing, the things that we can lose track of time while we're doing them. Another big pillar that we need to encounter in resolving the past is forgiveness. And forgiveness is for us. It's not for the other person. It is so that we can unburden ourselves from the negative experience not so that the person can be absolved, but so that we can release ourselves. And then the other thing is to find larger meaning by surrounding ourselves with the support we need, like we have in Perwink. Some people go to church. Some people join organizations in which they are volunteers. But to connect ourselves to this larger purpose that's greater than ourselves. So in some ways, instead of mothering and dealing with individuals, our focus can be shifted to a more collective care of how we can join forces with others to make social change, or to help on a larger scale, or to be involved with something religious. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and then there's also one other thing I wanted to.
Are you talking about like your?
Say that again?
Are you talking about like a spiritual love? You know, it's a larger meaning.
Yes, it can be spiritual, but it doesn't have to be. It can be cultural. You know, I mean, I think for many women, it can be and is spiritual, but for some women, it can be cultural. It can be the Red Hat Society. I mean, whatever, as long as it's bringing you joy. I mean, I think the spiritual aspect of it can also help in the forgiveness portion too. So if you can do that, or you want to do that, then I think that would be helpful as well. So I wanted to talk about change and growing old versus aging. So what are you doing? Are you aging or are you growing old? Amanda?
I am definitely growing old. I am more grumpy. I am more achy. I am swearing a little bit more. I'm wearing red lipstick, but not today because I just had a late dinner.
Why is that growing old?
I don't know. I think I reached 55 and I thought, come on, get on with it.
So why do you call that growing old?
Growing old. I like growing old. My grandma was a great old dancer. She would dance to whatever music came on the radio, I suppose. My grandfather had so many records. I remember when she died, he set up a massive tea party for all the locals in the village hall, and he made me in charge of all these old records. And I think that's growing old. It was a joy to see oldness celebrated. And I want to be an old celebrated, you know, I want to celebrate oldness.
Okay. So I would call that aging. I would call that aging.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Growing old to me feels weary, broken down, not healthy. Feels like a diseased state somehow. Aging.
Okay. Oh, well, that's me about 2 months ago. Yeah.
So yeah. So the difference, I mean, I think it's a mindset difference. How do you feel, Rahima?
Oh, I think I got a little bit of both, and I'd like to. I'm thinking about balsamic vinegar.
Yes.
And I really like balsamic vinegar, so I'm just going to think of myself as an aging balsamic.
Good. Nice.
Yeah. There's a song there.
Right? Yeah, so I mean, there are parts of growing old and aging that are not appealing to us. Let's face it. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I like, you know, I like aging all the time. I don't like aging all the time. Like I want to be able to look in the mirror and feel like, hey, yeah, you're 25. You know, I want to, you know, have that ease that I had back then in some ways. But I also, you know, when I feel discontent about aging, instead of making my body my enemy or becoming the victim of aging, I use that fuel of discontent to make changes. And the worst thing that we can do when we're discontent is inertia, right? That just makes us feel horrendous. And then the self-doubt piles on top, right?
Yeah.
Our future is made of small decisions that we make every day, tiny little decisions every moment. And when I feel discontent, I step into my empowered position where I'm like, I'm making this choice. Okay, this is what's happening. I'm into action now, and this is what I'm going to do about it. It doesn't always work, but as long as I'm on that path towards the goodness that I'm wanting, it does come to me. I have to be patient and persistent though. Maybe it doesn't come today, maybe it doesn't come tomorrow, maybe I don't know the answer, but as long as I'm seeking and stepping in the direction of well-being, I know I'm good. I don't have to doubt or fear. We will never be younger than we are today. This is the youngest we will ever be. This is it right now. Yeah. Just going to age from here on out. And we need to be okay with it. Whatever we resist is going to persist. If we resist the wrinkles and the cellulite, we're going to have more of them. If we resist, you know, a little bit of achiness as we get out of bed, we're going to increase our pain. We need to come to terms with the fact that as much as we can do in our lifestyle and our attitude, in our good genes that we might have, we need to come to terms with the fact that we are going to change. This is not, we're not going to turn back the clock or stop time. And we have to get okay with that. We've been changing since we're born. It's nothing new. So I want to just say something about this generation of women to close this talk, because I feel so freaking on fire and excited about this generation. You know, I'm going to dig into Gen X because I have a lot of information on Gen X, and the women in our generation are freaking powerhouses. We are amazing. We, you know, take women's lib to the next level, big time. And not only that, we're a huge group right now. Like, we are big in numbers. And we're also the most affluent and influential group on earth right now, Gen X women. And I do feel, economically and politically, I do feel that it is our generation that is going to make huge strides for women's equity, age equity in the workplace, in science, and in medical field. I feel really strongly that this is happening. I see it happening. I'm really proud of us. I'm really excited. And I think it's so important for not only for us, but for all the women coming up behind us. So I'm very excited about perimenopause in the news every time I see it, or a celebrity or a politician openly discussing their change. And also women willing to discuss and talk about and get support from each other during this time period. So, was that talk helpful?
Fabulous.
Yeah, your talks are always helpful. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of movement now. We've got a couple new moves for this week that I want to go over. I'm gonna move us now to our living room.
I haven't set up anything. I'm just gonna go and grab something.
Sure. While you're doing that, Rahima and I can start doing a little bit of head circles.
Okay.
Move it up a little bit more. So weird. Just
I'm gonna grab my pad too that has all my exercises on it. Oh, here it is. It's right here. Okay. Some arm circles back. That's my rabbit trying to get out of his cage. That slamming sound.
I didn't know you had a rabbit.
Oh yeah, he's really cute.
We have rabbits too.
He was a real jerk before I castrated him.
Yes.
Oh my God, he was biting me and humping me and like harassing me.
Yeah.
Just wrist circles. Other way. Hip circles. How are you finding the workouts?
I love the workouts.
Good. Rahima,
I love it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just love it that they're not so hard that I like dread them.
Good.
You know? And my husband tells me that they look good on me.
Oh, good already, huh? Amanda, how are you liking the workouts? I think you're stuck, Amanda.
I'm just at night.
I
A lot.
can't hear you, Amanda.
Pardon?
Oh, now
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing them too late at night.
All right.
I just need to do them earlier, but I do think they're benefiting me a lot.
Excellent. All right. So we're going to do a couple things. If you have a band, go ahead. I want to just do a little bit of shoulder mobility before we get into this. Bring it overhead. I try to put your mobility work into the whole circuit too.
Yeah, I have noticed that my hamstrings are more sore than they normally are.
Yeah. The soreness will subside as you adapt.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're going to start out. Let's just do, I want to just check your squats to begin with, because we're going to progress from the squat. So if you can show me your squats.
Is that with the band?
I'm wearing.
Yeah, with the band would be great.
Did we do these? I didn't feel like I saw a squat in these. Oh, maybe we did.
Yeah, there were squats last week.
Because I realized that I out the form from the week before, and so was like doing week 1 this past week.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so where do we
put it around your kneecaps?
Okay.
Good. And so I want you to push against the band as you come down. Good. And sit down like you're going to sit in a chair. Sit far back. Yep. And Amanda, keep your chest up a little higher as you come down. And then stand all the way up, Amanda. All the way up. All the way up so your head is tall. Yep, all the way. Yep. Good. Inhale on the way down. Exhale on the way up. Rahima, if I could see your feet, and Amanda, if I could see your feet, that would be a little better for me.
Where do I put you? Maybe like this?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, much better. Yeah. Go ahead. Can you get down a little deeper, Rahima? There you go. Perfect. Look ahead. Inhale. Exhale. Perfect. Good. You feeling your glutes more when you press against that band?
I have to make a concerted effort to do that, but yes.
Yes, you should. The more you press out, the more active you're going to feel on the outside of the leg. Good, Amanda. Okay. Stand all the way up. All the way up, Amanda. Good. Okay, good. Those look good. If you feel like you're not getting the right form, put a little chair behind you and use it as a target. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so the next movement I'm going to teach you is moving away from two legs. It's a squat that moves. So we've done a hinge pattern, and then we did that single leg slider. That's moving away from two legs. We're going to move away from two legs in the squat pattern now. So what I'm going to have you do is you can either use a paper plate, or you can use a sock on a wood floor, or you can use a slider. I have a slider here. Okay, so I'm going to put the slider under my foot. I really want you to pay attention to what's happening here with this knee. This is called a lateral slide. So I'm going to slide out to the side with this leg. This leg here is really just following. This one is the one doing all the work. Okay, I'm going to bend down. Notice my knee stays directly over my foot. I don't allow it to come to the middle. Okay, and then I stand up. All of the work is back here. I'm keeping the weight in the heel of this foot. See how my knee doesn't go past my toe? Inhale, exhale. This leg is really doing everything. The other leg is just kind of sliding out, not doing much of anything. The mistake I see is people try to use this leg to come back, and they use their inner thigh. This is the leg doing the work. Okay, give that a try. Good. Pressing up through that heel of the front leg, the heel of the working leg. Inhale on the way down. Exhale on the way up. Amanda, can you turn to the side and do it for me so I can see how your knee is, if your knee's coming past your toe?
Yeah. Is that okay there?
Yep. Okay, so I want you to sit your butt much further back. So what I see you doing right now is this. I see you doing this, okay? What I want to see is this. See how my butt goes far back?
Yeah, okay.
Butt back.
I can do that. Right.
Yep.
Okay.
You're going to feel it a lot more in that glute.
Yeah.
Okay, now stand up. Press up through that front heel. Got it? Inhale. Exhale on the way up, and get your head as tall as you can on the way up. All the way up, all the way up. Look at the horizon. Yep, good. Okay, this one is definitely going to make you sore. Okay? Should feel a lot of butt work, right? Are you feeling it in your butt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so it's a lateral slide. Next, we're going to try a split squat. I'm not sure if I'm going to include these this week. We'll see. But so I want you to stand in a position like this. Okay. My feet are actually hip width. If you tight rope, it's going to be really difficult. Keep it hip width. Okay. Again, the front leg is the working leg. I'm going to drop straight down and I'm going to come up. The mistake I see people doing is they come forward. Don't come forward, come straight down and come up. Primarily using this. Squeeze both butt cheeks at the top. Inhale, exhale. Rahima, make your stance a little longer. Longer. Yep. Good. Now come straight down. Amanda, also make your stance a little bit longer. Okay. Come straight down. Bend both knees. Yep. There you go. Press up through the front heel. Good. You feeling that front glute?
Feel it here.
In the hip flexor? Yeah, you're going to feel it a little bit there too, but try to prioritize working with the front leg, okay?
Yeah.
It's kind of a stretch you feel on that other leg, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Squeeze both butt cheeks as you come up. Okay, switch legs. Amanda, move back a little bit more so I can see that front knee.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Now come straight down. Okay, so you need to sit further back because your knee is exceeding your toe in that front foot. Come straight down. That's better. That's better. Yep.
Oh, gosh, yeah, that hurts.
Where does it hurt?
Okay. All over. Here.
If you,
Yeah.
where?
Yeah.
Where does
I'm
it
just
hurt?
unfit. Everywhere. I am an unfit.
Your body's adapting. It's going to adapt and change. And be patient. Okay. I want you to know there's a difference between exertion, discomfort, and pain. Okay. We're not going pain. We're not doing pain. So if you have pain in any of these movements, I want you not to do them. Do not work through pain. What I want you to do is video yourself in the movement and send it to me, or schedule a 15-minute check-in with me. We're not doing pain here. We are doing discomfort though. Okay? The only way that we grow and change is through discomfort, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And also, Amanda, if you find it too difficult or too much, too uncomfortable, you can use a support. You can fake it until you make it. There's nothing wrong with faking it until you make it, okay? You can put your hand on the surface and help yourself, okay? Next one, scapular push-ups. So we're gonna come to a hands and knees position. You're gonna squeeze your upper back together and then round. This isn't cat-cow like this. That's more in the lower back. This is all in the upper back, okay? So I want you to look at my back. What I'm basically doing here is I am drawing my shoulder blades together. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm rounding, and then I'm drawing them together. And what I want you to do is I want you to get maximum movement of your scapula on your back. Maximum movement. Full range of motion. Squeeze them together, push them out. A little bit slower even. Squeeze, push. Amanda, try to keep your elbows locked. This is called a scapular push-up, but we're not actually, see, the elbows stay still. You should feel a good amount of work in the upper middle back, right? Yes?
I'm still trying to get it, I'm still trying to get myself coordinated. Am I doing this right?
Yes. If you don't feel like it's enough work, you can come out to a full plank like this. And you're going to squeeze and round. So you're going to basically squeeze your shoulder blades together and then push the floor away and round up. squeeze, push. Do you feel that?
Do you breathe out when you go down?
I would do that when let me see, when I push away. So Rahima, make that back of your back round up even more in between.
Okay.
So this is basically a movement that is important for posture and shoulder health, okay? We want our scapula to be able to move freely on our back, open and close. A lot of times with the sitting posture that we use and people who might have shoulder issues, the scapula don't glide the way that they should. And we really want to remind the scapula to come together and to separate. And that also helps build those muscles in the upper middle back, okay? And then our next one is turtle rocks. We did these last week, but I didn't end up incorporating them. You're gonna lay on back. Like this. So start out with your low back in the ground. You're gonna pick up your head, and it's a tiny little movement, tiny. Look between your hands. Exhale as you come forward. Even smaller movement, Rahima. Arms up to the sky. Good. You feel your core?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, this is funny because the smaller the movement you make, the more difficult and challenging it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then one last movement. This one's challenging, and I'm going to put this in the front end of all your workouts because it's a balance. Well, if we do a circuit, you're going to end up revisiting it a couple times. Maybe we'll just do it once in the beginning. It's a balance exercise. So whenever we do balance work, we want to put that in the beginning of the workout while we're still fresh. Balance work, the important thing is to remain in control. So rather than another case where fake it until you make it. Because if you're not in control, your nervous system is learning how to be out of control. You're right. When we do balance work, we're instructing our nervous system to stay in control. We're instructing and we're giving food to our proprioception. That's where we belong in space, okay? So it's important for you to stay in control of what you're doing. So let me just show you what in control looks like, right? Here's out of control, okay? You don't want to be doing this. If you're doing that, put a toe down. Hold on to something, okay? Make sure you maintain your posture in your hips and you don't hang in the sit too. Okay, so let me give you a full shot of what we're going for here. This is called a single arm, single leg dumbbell press. So what I suggest when we're doing balance work, I like to connect my legs. See how I have them connected? This helps me with my proprioception. It helps me understand where I am in space better. I'm going to draw my navel in. My upper back is engaged. I'm looking at the horizon. I'm pressing overhead. Inhale. Exhale. This looks easy. It's not. I'm making a pillar out of this leg. My butt is squeezing. I'm like solid pillar here, okay? The more I can touch myself here on my leg and on my stomach, the more I understand where I am in space and the easier it is for me to balance. Another thing that makes it easier for me to balance is if I choose a gaze point out in the distance and I keep my eyes on that steady point. Okay? You can use a band for this too. You don't need to use a dumbbell. With a band, you're simply going to place it under your foot like this and press overhead with the band. Okay? Okay, so give that a shot. Good. Excellent. The more you make that standing leg into a pillar and squeeze that butt cheek, the more you engage your core, you're going to lift on the side. Yep, on the standing side. Good. Excellent. Is that a can of soup?
Yes.
Okay. So I see you coming like here. I want you to come here.
Okay.
Always, you see how I'm stacked up in my geometry here? Like literally my forearm is in line with my femur, okay? The more we get out of our geometry, here or here, the more difficult it is, and the less we capitalize on our structure, okay? And also, the further back you press, the more you're going to engage the muscles around your shoulder. Here, what we're engaging is the top of the shoulder. We don't want to do that. We want to actually get our back involved here. Okay? Good. Do you feel confident in those movements?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you need a review with? No? Rahima, there's going to be movements, since you redid week 1, there's new movements in week 2. If you need any help with those, you let me know, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
There should be clear instructions on it. Are you finding the instructional videos good?
I love them.
Okay, because I
love them.
I always feel like it's so easy for me to coach when you're in front of me, you know? And I can give cues, but it's hard for me to do it. It's harder for me to do it when I'm not seeing you. So I'm still getting used to doing the voiceover.
It's really great to have these Sundays too, because I feel like I remember, over the week what we did. It's great.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Hey, before we sign off, Amanda, I just want to say I love your outfit.
I do too. I love those jeans.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You seem surprised, Amanda.
My brother says I just look eccentrically bonkers most of the time. So
Well,
I
you
take
look
that
really
now and
hot.
I think, hooray.
I think you look great.
Yeah.
I want to see some red lipstick next time.
Yeah,
I
really.
will. Wednesday, I will have the red lippy.
Okay, I'll do it too.
Okay.
All right, ladies. It's so excellent seeing you. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. Rahima, I also heard what you said about feeling prepared. So I made sure all of this week is up already.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that's fine for me. The reason I kind of hesitate because I'm always building the workouts. That's the part that takes me the longest. But I already have everything.
Nice to see you, Rahima.
Nice to see you.
Okay, so you have everything. I'll see you ladies next week, and I'll see you on Wednesday if you want me, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
I found it really emotional today. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.